Welcome to Let's Talk Antigonish, the podcast where we sit down with neighbors, experts, and friends to explore the stories, the questions, and the big little issues that shape life in our town, one conversation at a time. Today, we're finally getting an answer to the question, what's with the old Cineplex movie theater building on Main Street? It seems like it's been under construction for years. What's going on in there? We've got the answer. Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Antigonish. Anuj.
Hi there.
I just pointed at Anuj and made him say hello. I'm Justin. This is Anuj. We are your co-hosts. You probably know this by now. And this week we are answering, I think, what may be the number one question on people's minds here in Antigonish. It may be trivial, but for some reason, it's our number one question. And we found a person, the person, who knows all about this for reasons that will become clear later on. Andrew Murray. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
And
Thank
welcome.
you very much for having me.
So the question we're going to start off with the question. What on earth is happening to the old Cineplex building here on Main Street? Because, as everyone has noticed, it's been under construction for years at this point.
Yeah, next door to our studio.
Right next to the library.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be a cinema, and now something else is happening. Nobody seems to know. Lots of rumors going around. And Andrew, you know everything about this.
I actually do.
Okay.
I really, really do.
Okay, what is the project? Tell us what's happening.
So, I have a great, strong connection with Joan McClellan, and she opened the Brownstone restaurant in 2011.
Okay, Joan is the owner of the Brownstone?
Correct.
Okay.
And I designed the interior and the exterior, and it took forever.
To design it?
No, to get it done.
Oh, I see.
Me, I'm always early.
Yes,
and
you were done within 24
Me
hours.
change my mind? Never.
Sure.
So, in 2022, Joan purchased the Capitol Theater.
Okay, that's 3 years ago.
Correct. And with certain plans.
Certain plans.
Plans, yes. And these plans have changed. So anyone knowing anything about renovation, permits, and drawings, anytime you make a significant change, you basically have to go back to the drawing board. And what that means is getting rid of everything that's been approved, starting over, submit plans to the planning, Eastern Planning Commission, that's like town planners and architects, etc. So that takes a long time. So the change happened a year and a half ago.
Okay.
From what they were going to do to what they're going to do now.
What's the original plan that got changed?
It is and always will be and always has been a restaurant.
Okay.
And it's going to be a barbecue smokehouse.
Okay.
And Joan wanted to call it the Capitol Barbecue Smokehouse. But that word has been frozen in time and never to be used in terms of a restaurant. There's another restaurant in Nova Scotia that's the Capitol something restaurant.
I see.
And they refused to let Joan have that.
Okay.
So when they were talking about the last 2 or 3 years at the Brownstone, they would always say, well, when we're down the street, and someone said, well, why don't we just call it the Down the Street Barbecue Smokehouse?
So the Down the Street Barbecue Smokehouse is the name of a smokehouse that is currently going to be built?
Correct.
Okay.
So when the restaurant opens, it's going to be called Down the Street Barbecue Smokehouse.
Right. And it's not replacing the Brownstone. Like the Brownstone's still there.
It's a separate restaurant altogether.
Okay.
It'd be a completely different menu. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be like Swiss Chalet, but better.
Okay.
It's actually going to have a smokehouse. They'll be smoking chicken. They'll be smoking meat. Sort of southern, corn on the cob, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So there isn't a restaurant like that, and we have 32 of them in Antigonish. So it's very smart to do something that's not going to compete with the Brownstone.
So that space there is enormous. There's a huge, giant screen area in the back. So that can't all be a smokehouse, I imagine.
No. It's going to be, obviously, it's a slope, like a rake. It's going to be leveled off, and half the building is going to be the restaurant on the first floor. So half of the building was going to be a nightclub.
A nightclub?
A
Nightclub on
Yes.
Main Street in Antigonish?
Like
Correct.
the Dirty O, wasn't that a thing?
With huge, balconies. I mean, as you go further down in the building, of course, the height is increased.
Balcony. So like a proper nightclub.
It was going to be a full-on disco nightclub.
So this was the original plan.
This is the original plan.
A nightclub.
Then it was discovered how much insurance was needed to cover people falling off a balcony, for example, or any kind of nightclub. It was just cost prohibitive. So that idea was scrapped.
Okay.
So drawings were done, permits were done, environmental assessments were done, but changed the mind. It was just not feasible to do that.
Right.
So back to the drawing board.
Okay.
Everything was staying the same with the restaurant, but there's going to be 9 lovely apartments,
Okay.
which I think is fantastic.
9 is a lot. It seems
9.
Can it-
There'll be 4, 2 on the back, 8 in the back, and 1 3-bedroom apartment on the second floor with the windows facing Main Street.
Okay.
So a big apartment there, and 8 in the back, and 2 will be handicap accessible.
I see. Okay.
So I think this is a great development.
Are these themed apartments? Do they go
I
with like the
wish, 'cause-
smokehouse theme?
Yes.
Like
Yeah. You can't see inside because there's so much smoke.
that's right.
That's
no.
fine.
No, but they're just regular apartments.
Really nice, well done apartments.
Okay.
More housing, which I think is fantastic.
Is it catering to a specific demographic? Like, is this like students or older? Because there's that one apartment that was built and it was like you had to be 55 or older to rent. What was that one? Next to the pizzeria there, the Wheel.
Oh yes, well that's would be high end. Those apartments.
Oh, okay, but
these will be affordable-ish.
affordable-ish.
I mean, yeah, not outrageous.
Okay.
That's the plan. So I think this is great. So again, we have to wait. Joan is waiting for the drawings to be done and then go to planning and
Okay.
So
So
every
it
time
hasn't been approved.
every time you stop, you have to start over again,
All right.
and that can take months and months.
And there is the building structure and its insulation and everything else, good enough to do all that inside?
Yes.
Okay.
They did. They had an environmental assessment. We think the building was around 1950s. It was built when the other theater burned. And
Right.
Interesting tidbit of information, behind this current library was a junk pile. And in that junk pile was found the original reel of the movie that was being, I think it was called Fanny. And it was found. And that is now at the museum.
That's cool.
Yeah.
For the theater that burned.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
first Capitol Theater.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So is there going to be any like theater cinema theme at all associated with that building? Like,
Not really.
No.
No.
Yeah. That-
No.
So, what is the timeline on this? Like we have been wondering, this might come in 25, 24, is it 26? Is it 27?
So the contractor hopes to start working on the exterior late summer. And
Late summer this year.
correct.
Okay.
My contribution to this project is I designed the exterior 3 years ago. So
Okay.
my job is I'm just waiting to go back to work. So that's the time frame, and from that point it should be a year. So I would think late spring 2026.
Oh,
And will it retain some of the old charm of the building, or will it be completely renovated?
The front facade is going to be completely changed. There's talk of me painting movie. The only connection with the theater, I might be painting iconic movies on murals that'll go
cool.
on the side of the building.
right. Cool. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think Jaws should be there. It's the 50th anniversary after all.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. So your involvement is, and the reason you know everything about this is because right from the get go you were there to help with the design again.
Correct.
Both the sort of exterior, but also like the interior as well.
Just the exterior in this job,
Just the exterior.
Yeah.
Okay.
and possibly murals.
So this is a very capital intensive project.
It's and nothing's
Seems
cheap.
like.
Yeah. So that's the reason for the delay is changed minds, changed direction out of necessity, and I always feel sometimes when there's a delay or an interruption, the end result is a better idea anyway.
Right.
I really think.
Right. And in terms of like that, when the apartments come, obviously people who live there will need parking spaces.
Oh,
how's
good question.
that? Yeah.
There's you're obliged to have certain
Certain
spaces.
spaces. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what real estate in around the building belongs to the building.
Right.
Right, because I just assumed that whole area in the back there all belonged to shoppers, but maybe not.
Well, there's directly behind the building there's parking spaces, and there are parking spaces next to the building that I think belong to the library.
Okay. So
Um,
to be determined.
Yes. Hopefully, people have bicycles.
That's right.
Who needs a car when you're living downtown?
Exactly.
I just-
Maybe that'll be the condition to get renters out in there. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, you've been involved in like the downtown forever, I think, and in terms of like designing things and knowledge about spaces and things. And like, I think we finally answered the question of what's that building going to be. Now I'm going to move on to the what's going on in Main Street question that's been baking in my head. But before I start peppering you with questions, explain to everybody what your involvement has been with the Main Street and the businesses there.
Okay. Well, when I do the Capitol Theater, this will be my 7th interior exterior business project on Main Street. And oddly enough, I migrated from east to west. And there's 7 of them. Now, when I look at this list, I kind of think, ooh, there's some flashbacks of painful. I feel like there's 7 children.
Oh, no.
Anyone that's raised 7 children will understand what I mean.
Are all of these still active businesses?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anuj, can you guess which ones Andrew has designed? Should we make this a contest?
He let it on about the brownstone. for
We know.
sure.
Okay, brownstone for sure.
Yeah.
$5 to a dollar?
$5 to $1, you know.
Well, that's just the window.
Oh, okay.
Right.
That's my ever-changing window display, or it's like my little stage.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
I'm going
to go through the list from
east to west.
geographically.
Okay.
And they actually worked out in that order.
Okay.
Maritime Inn did the dining room in the lobby. Encore Consignment, Cameron's Jewelry, Brownstone,
Yep.
Happenstance, the Capitol Theater, and Peace by Chocolate.
And Peace by Chocolate.
And Peace by Chocolate.
Okay.
So Peace by Chocolate was 2 years ago. The Capitol Theater will be in the future. And it all started with Encore Consignment, and then Maritime Inn came in between there. And I remember Encore Consignment, it was 2003, because Hurricane Juan had just gone through, and we were opening 2 days later in the dark.
Yeah.
So pricing things in the dark by windows.
That's funny.
And all of these projects involve brown paper on the windows.
Oh, I see. So that people couldn't see what's behind them.
It drives people crazy.
But that's pretty normal, isn't it, when you do construction?
It's not just Anakin.
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
like
phenomenon.
every business ever.
But when it's a small town, it's more intense.
People want to know. People are curious.
And when they think they guess or have they, what is actually going to be in there from a rumor point of view is fascinating.
Oh, yes. I mean, that's exactly why you're here right now, because there's paper on the windows. We can't see what's going on in the Capitol.
Yeah.
That's right.
But, you know, so complete your story.
So my favorite brown paper on the window story involved Cameron's Jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
And work. So it was a discussion, do we take the brown paper off the windows tonight at midnight or in the morning? And the woman I was working with, she said, no, there's people out there. I said, it's Tuesday night at midnight. Who's out there? I mean, no one's out there. So, well, let's take it. So we start splitting the Scotch tape off, and there was this face right in the window. And I went, ah! So she was right.
What? People are just standing there waiting?
They knew something was happening, and they waited. Yeah.
I mean, I understand that, because I
I do
have a
too.
visceral curiosity to know what's going on at every building site in town. And I feel like this podcast, like half of it's just going to be, what's that building? Because like I've already got 3 more planned I can think of. What's that building?
Yeah.
So this is, I get it. I get that brown paper curiosity.
Yeah. And it's actually a legal requirement. It's a bylaw. If you're renovating, or if a business is empty, you have to put brown paper on the window.
Fascinating. Yeah, but you could, of course, change the bylaws as a councilor.
Just the power I have. I like brown paper.
Yeah. So have we got all the information out about that new space? And
I think
so.
so. The name and what it's going to be.
And the timeline, we
Why
know.
we changed.
Okay.
And
Let me ask another question around that. You know, this idea of a smokehouse, you know, who will be the usual suspect customer there? Do you think that Andy Ganesh is like that kind of food and that kind of ambience? Was it there ever?
it was discussed amongst the folks at the Brownstone. What do you think about this idea? And this went on for months and months, and everyone was extremely enthusiastic because there's nothing like it. And people like variety. I mean, if we want pizza, we have lots of different pizza places to go, but there's nowhere you can go and get this kind of cuisine.
Like Swiss Chalet is pretty popular. I have to say, when I'm in New Glasgow, I tend to go to Swiss Chalet.
Exactly.
It's my main go-to restaurant.
But this will be a better quality.
Yeah. Antigonish Farmers Mutual is not just an insurance provider, they're your neighbors. As a mutual insurance company, they're owned by policyholders, not shareholders. That means they always put their clients first. From protecting homes, cars, fishing vessels, or even farms, they're there when needed most, with personalized service, fair rates, and peace of mind that can be counted on. Antigonish Farmers Mutual. Insurance built on trust, backed by community. Visit their Main Street location for a quote or some friendly advice. Times have been tough and intense for a lot of us lately. If you or a loved one is struggling with feelings of isolation, being overwhelmed, or are looking for support during a difficult transition in your life, consider professional therapeutic services. Amber Lee Bolton Counseling Services provides evidence-based clinical support for loss, grief, depression, and anxiety. Amber Lee is a registered social worker with a provisional clinical specialization from the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers. As a registered social worker, she can direct bill insurance benefit programs to offset your own out-of-pocket costs. Amber Lee offers therapeutic support for individuals and families and works from an attachment-informed philosophy that promotes self-compassion and nervous system attunement for youth, adults, and children. For more information on the specific therapies Amber Lee offers, including TheraPlay, Safe and Sound Protocol, parent-child sessions, or float-assisted psychotherapy in partnership with Nepsis Flotation, please reach out or book online through her website, amberleebolton.com, or email info@amberleebolton.com. On this topic of what businesses and restaurants and whatever come to the town, I'm fascinated by this because walking down Main Street, you see things coming in and out, and there's always a store cropping up, and then I'm like, why that store? Who made that decision? That seems like nobody needs that or wants that. And why do we have so many pizza places but not like an Indian food place? So I'm curious, maybe you know this from a bylaws or from a planning perspective or from maybe the Chamber of Commerce. Is there anything on the books that determines what is allowed and not allowed to come in, or any form of like oversight planning as to what we want to see downtown?
Come on, we are a capitalist country. People can do what they want.
No, sir. There are definitely like lots of places, lots of towns around North America where
we have the person to answer that question.
Yeah. So is it just free for all? Anyone can do anything, or are there actual laws in place or bylaws?
As Anuj said, any person can open a business of any kind. There's restrictions. It can't be industrial in a business district. There's different zones, building zones, building areas. But no, you could have what we almost have now, many esthetician places.
Yeah, and
there's 5.
There's so many, and they're not medical. They're not technically medical, like quasi-medical. So there's no rules against that, I assume.
No.
This is a question I have because I don't walk down the street and see like a Botox clinic and think, oh, I'm gonna get some Botox real. It doesn't seem like a foot traffic kind of location.
I just came from there.
Yeah, exactly. You
My
look like
face
you're in the
hurts.
wind.
Yes.
But yeah. So obviously they must do their demographic research to think like, oh, there is interest in this.
There has to be, if you open a business, you have to have some kind of business plan indicating that there's a need.
Okay. But the town itself or the Chamber of Commerce or whatever association, they don't have like a laundry list of businesses that they want that they're actively trying to get. Like there's no...
Not officially.
There's no plan.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. Why do you want government in your life on the business side? But anyway, that's a different conversation.
It's an interesting conversation. Yeah,
I agree. But I think, the other question that I have for you, Andrew, is, the nature of Main Street is changing and has changed dramatically.
It has, yes.
And there are places that still look half open, half closed kind of places. As a counselor, as somebody, who spends a lot of time on Main Street where do you see Main Street going in the next 5 to 10 years?
No brown paper on windows. Because, and Antigonish is very, very lucky and has been for as long as I've come back to Antigonish. Brown paper windows doesn't last very long. You go to other places, like perhaps New Glasgow, their downtown is open, close, open, close. It's many vacancies. There's not very long that there's a vacancy on Main Street, which is great.
Right.
That's why we have traffic on Main Street, why we have people parking and shopping.
Yeah.
Which is
but
great.
we are getting constrained in terms of our urban space.
Yes.
In town, and we have opened up James Street to some extent, and that's actually doing quite well in the last 2-3 years. Looks like.
And we've done, the beautification committee has done a lot of work on James Street, and it's looking better and better every year.
Right.
Because it was neglected for a while, and it's a major shopping area, really. A lot of food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Are there any businesses that either of you two would love to see on Main Street specifically? If you could have,
A small market grocery store.
I think
Wouldn't
there are
that
a
be
number
lo-
of people talking about that.
Yes.
with local produce kind of thing?
anything.
I think our challenge is that the margins are so low
Yeah.
in the fresh produce, and it's so sensitive to the weather and everything to afford that rent
Yeah.
and have people running
Support it.
So people are saying that they would like to, but to run this is not going to be easy. So let's see what makes it viable in the future. Who
Yeah.
knows?
And what about a movie theater? I mean, it seemed like the Cineplex there, especially during COVID, it just became one of the ones they closed down because it wasn't generating a lot of revenue. Do you guys think that there would be interest? Because everyone I talk to, when we talk about businesses and things we want to see, everyone says movie theater, but maybe that's just an impossibility. What do you think?
Well, COVID didn't help. But at the same time, Blockbuster collapsed because Netflix was, taking off, and people would rather stay at home and watch their movie of their choice than go out to an expensive family outing, which was a shame. And it actually wasn't being well attended even before this. It was a downward decline, so it just didn't make any sense for it to continue. And to start another one, generally they're Cineplexes, in a mall.
Yes, they're huge. Yeah.
I think this is a larger conversation. I think library has been an amazing central space for people to meet,
Indeed.
have a cup of coffee, read books, bring their children or adults or elders. But off late, it's so full. And I think there is a beginning of a need for a alternative space, an additional space,
like a community space.
community space where there's a sense of informality, but also a sense of safety. And I don't know where that might emerge in the future, but I think that's a huge need for that.
Sure.
Yeah, and but that's just my
That is,
my
yeah.
thinking.
But it seems like we're letting the market decide who wants to have something, and then it's up to them
the town should get involved in the zoning part and encouraging people for sure. But that's just my view.
Sure. I have very strong opinions on what I want to see in Main
There's
Street.
three strong opinions around this table.
Yeah. But I wish someone would open up a small movie theater, like a little indie.
It would be
theater,
wonderful.
Yeah.
And they don't have to do the blockbuster films, so the new films. You could just do old films. But
I remember maybe 15 years ago, there was a Third Eye Film Festival, Third Eye Film Series. It was a group of citizens, and we got films in. Our first film was called Wing Migration, I believe.
oh yeah,
There was a lineup down the length of the movie theater.
cool.
Yeah.
It was packed.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
One idea that I heard about a year back from a friend of ours is some kind of atrium that covers 2 or 3 blocks of Main Street.
An atrium.
Yeah, which essentially has a covered space where you don't
yeah.
have cars passing by, so you use the alternative roads, and that creates a whole different energy to the town. Number of other towns have done that, but of course we are so cramped in terms of our traffic that it'll be difficult. But it's an idea that intrigues me.
Andrew, maybe I've always thought about the need for pedestrian areas, and I love it when they close down Main Street to have some sort of festival.
Absolutely.
But it seems like when in terms of everyday traffic, we kind of need Main Street. Has anyone ever talked about closing off Main Street to pedestrians only and rerouting?
It has been discussed and quickly squashed.
Okay.
Because of it's not great for the businesses on Main Street.
And there's the gas
There's
station.
the classic, I want to park directly in front of the store I'm going to and go in and then leave.
Yeah.
The idea of parking there and walking to this is just not, people don't like that.
I wonder, if that is just the way of doing things, and if we take that step, people will adopt, because the idea of in a closed space like atrium is so intriguing to me. As much as I would love to park and go into the store, I don't mind,
Okay.
parking, on the side street and walking up to it, or biking there.
So,
But I will mention the noticeable amount of traffic, i.e., trucks, which have to go through Main
Yeah,
Street
to
when
get
the
to
College
everything.
Street Bridge was closed.
Right.
It was horrendous. So we don't realize how much St. Ninians use Main and St. Mary's as arteries.
Right.
yeah,
And a lot of these trucks do go down St. Mary's. I know. I hear them.
because they're right by your house.
Oh, yeah. And there's that bump right now. I can't
Yeah.
complain about it, though.
So my last question to you: if you were forced to open a store or some sort of thing on Main Street, you, Andrew, what would be your dream thing that you were an owner of? It could be something that already exists, like the bookstore or whatever. But what would be your main thing?
I would go back to something I think is needed and be appreciated, would be a market.
Okay, so
Like a
you
small
will be
grocery store.
Oh.
Like small fish, small meat, vegetables.
I think there might be something in the cooking right now.
Because when you think about the farmer's market, how successful and busy that is
Sure.
in the morning. I don't do mornings. So that all day long or, every day, I think would be wonderful. I'll tell you, a very smart decision was McKinnon's drugstore, McKinnon's pharmacy. They started putting in vegetables in the back.
Yes, that's right.
Potatoes, carrots, fresh vegetables. And that went so well. So you could actually go to McKinnon's and get groceries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I have if I could add, if we were to have, in addition to that, a international market where Filipinos could buy their stuff, Indians could buy their. We are lucky to have an Indian store now on the James Street.
Yep.
But Nigerians and Syrians and Ukrainians, if we had a store that was able to just give basic stuff. In addition to that, I think that it has its future.
So, in conclusion, we will be on Main Street building an atrium that you will have Murray's Grocers there.
An underground parking space.
And underground parking space, and you'll have an international food hall,
Yeah.
and all of our problems will be solved. And I'll be running the movie theater.
And a bandstand.
And a what?
A bandstand.
And a bandstand, of course.
For concerts.
Perfect. Okay, we've got it figured out. But in the meantime, we're going to get a smokehouse.
Yes.
We know we're getting that.
Down the street barbecue smokehouse.
Down the street barbecue smokehouse. Okay, mystery solved, everybody. We
Yes.
know it's definitely coming in about a year, maybe a year and a half.
A year and a half with wonderful apartments.
With apartments in the back.
Beautiful.
Which,
Okay.
add to our 9, I should say. So there's the 4 in the back, 8 in the back, and the one large over the main street. Yeah.
Okay. Well, mystery solved, everyone. Have a look out for it. And Andrew, thank you for coming in.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Thanks
And
for having me.
we're going to keep having you back every time some brown paper comes up.
Okay.
Because you're going to be
The
involved.
brown paper update.
That's Brown Paper Update with Andrew Murray. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Antigonish. If you like the podcast, don't hesitate to subscribe. Just go to letstalkantigonish.ca and click. Voila! You'll receive new episodes right in your email inbox.
This podcast is the labor of love. Please consider making a contribution, small or large, maybe a monthly subscription. Depending on the level of public support, we would like to engage local producers and journalists to create more regular deep dive news stories about life here in Antigonish.
Right now, it's just Anuj and I doing this in our free time. You can read all about the podcast and ways to support us at letstalkantigonish.ca. And if you're a local business that wants to sponsor the podcast or even place an audio ad, we are certainly not opposed. A huge thank you to all of our subscribers and especially our paid subscribers, which have helped us to buy the audio equipment that we needed to get this thing off the ground. And remember to get in touch with us if you have an idea for a future episode or a burning question about life in Antigonish that you want us to explore and get answers to. We welcome all feedback. Just email us at letstalkantigonish@gmail.com. Let's talk, Antigonish.